Negative thoughts creep in. We can't help it. But what we do with those negative thoughts can become very important to our success. Welcome to the Little Black Couch, a journey in entrepreneurship. Everyone should be an entrepreneur. The chance to overcome obstacles, solve problems, make the world a better place, and dictate your life on your own terms is worth the risk. My name is Aaron Stewart, and I have been researching or living entrepreneurship for almost 30 years now. Welcome to the Little Black Couch, a journey in entrepreneurship.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Bruised Entrepreneur. Trying to get the sound right as we drive along here in the car. For another episode of The Bruised Entrepreneur in the car. So it looks like it's going to be below 37 degrees. So I get a little beep. This morning driving into work. This morning I wanted to talk just really briefly about something that I think's really important. And I'll tell you a little story. For a long time in my life, I fought negative sort of self-talk, right? Where thoughts would just come into my head that you'll never be successful, you're a horrible husband, you're a bad dad, you're not very nice, you're not very good looking, and then you are fat, you are slow-witted. I mean, they just come in, right? They would just come in, a lot of negativity. And I learned from, interestingly enough, I started attending a golf school with a guy named Fred Shoemaker, Extraordinary Golf. And a lot of what we did there was golf, obviously. But we also talked about the destructive powers of negative thought. And so we had these really great discussions about that. In golf, negative thought's a killer, right? And so he gave us some tools and some exercises for us to deal with negative thought. And those instantly were able to translate over into my personal life, basically for everything else, for my marriage, for work, and everything. And so I wanted to sort of share with you all those steps, because as entrepreneurs, we are faced with so much doubt, so much self-talk that is negative, and none of that stuff works. I know I've said here before, but any situation can be made worse by complaining about it, right? So we don't need any more negativity. We need to stay focused and positive, and so we can take action, so we can keep moving forward and keep plugging on, because eventually we're going to pop through the other side and everything's going to be much better than it is now, right? There's always the next horizon, and that's what we entrepreneurs have to focus on in order to continue moving, right? So anyway, so these negative thoughts, they're just out there, and they just come in. I know I've talked about it before, but in our religion, and it's definitely something I've been raised with since I was little, that there's a spirit who's what's just kind of the real us, our essence, and then there's a body that it's joined with while we're here on Earth, and that becomes the soul, right? So you've got the spirit, the physical body, and that makes up the soul. And so these thoughts just come in, and the only way for us to there's no way to stop a thought, right? And that's the thing that's so interesting, is if a thought gets in there, then it's there, and it has to be dealt with. Now, I've definitely noticed in times when we're really, really busy, or we've got other stuff going on, that sometimes there just isn't any room for negative thoughts to get in there, right? You're just so engaged and you're so interested in whatever's going on that those are really great times. That's where it's really, really awesome to be an entrepreneur, because you're so engaged and so focused and so interested on what you're trying to create that really a lot fewer negative thoughts can work their way in. And that's kind of what we're looking for. That's ultimately the best place to be. I think that's why, we talk about finding joy in the journey, and as an entrepreneur, a lot of times when you've reached success, it's just not as fun anymore. It's just not as you've got the money now and you've got the freedom and all of that's going on, but the charge, the energy, the excitement is gone because you're not dealing with trying to find the next thing and being creative and being under the gun and the pressure and all of that. Well, I also think that causes a quieter mind, because it's so focused on those things that need to get done that there's no place for the negative thoughts to come in. When you finally reach some level of success and things are a little calmer, there's less to think about. Well, these negative thoughts, something has to fill up that space in our brain, and so negative thoughts come creeping back in again. And so you'll see a lot of people figure out, what's the meaning in life? They think, right? They think, if I get to this place, then I will be so happy and I'll have no more problems anymore. And they get to that place, and lo and behold, it seems like they've got more problems. And it's just because they aren't engaged in something as fully as they used to be, and so now we've got a head full of negative thoughts again, and they just keep coming in. All right, so the process is this. So when a negative thought enters into your brain, into your mind, and they will, and that's the first thing I think is no guilt. When a thought comes into your head, you need to see it as, oh yeah, that's one of those again, right? It's just a thought. There's nothing to it. They're just a thought, and that's it. There's nothing to that. I am not a negative person. I really have very little to be upset about. I've got a wonderful wife, family. I mean, everything is really, really good. But sometimes these negative thoughts still come in, and then how we react to them can make a huge difference in our level of happiness and our level of joy and peace and comfort in our lives right now. So, okay, back to it. So this is it. So a negative thought comes in. Aaron, you are a moron. All right, there's one for you, right? It pops into your head. Aaron, you are a moron. So the process is this. Aaron, you are a moron. I instantly recognize it. Oh, yeah, it's one of those, right? It's one of those negative thoughts. There it is. Okay, so for me, first off, I recognize it. For me, I usually kind of give it one of these, one of those again. So I almost sort of a bored kind of that's all you got kind of a feeling, sort of a thought like, oh yeah, it's more of I know what that is. Nice try, negative thought maker, universe or whatever. I got you. I see what that is. And then I say, thanks for showing up. I know that's your job. You're not trying to hurt anybody. You're just throwing out negative thoughts. So thanks for that, but not interested. Yeah, I'm not. No thanks. And so that's not helpful. No thanks. And then you move on. Well, what you'll notice is that when you first start getting into being really conscientious about this, and you do, you literally have to start noticing and recognizing those thoughts coming in and treat them as such. Treat them as an object that's come in to disrupt your life. So notice them, identify them, and then dismiss them. However you want to do that. For me, it's oh yeah, I got you. It's you again. And no thanks. Thanks for coming by, but no thanks. Well, it takes practice. It wasn't easy, I gotta admit. It wasn't easy when I started down this path of trying to deal with these thoughts. It was exhausting, frankly. It wasn't a very fun process. They'd come in, I'd recognize them, try to say no thanks. They'd hang around for a bit. I know it sounds a little crazy, but when you turn them into sort of an inanimate object, some weird stuff can go on. But that's it. Notice them, acknowledge them, dismiss them. Notice them, acknowledge them, dismiss them. NAD. Notice, acknowledge, dismiss. NAD. So that's how I've kind of remembered it. I know that this works. It takes some practice. But the cool thing about it is with everything else, you can get really, really good at it. And at this point in my life, a lot of negative thoughts come in and they are gone in less than a second. I mean, I just have no time for it. I dismiss them pretty instantly, and you get really, really good at it. Well, that changes the way your brain works on these negative thoughts, because your brain is really cool about being efficient. And so your brain will create synapses, pathways to the stuff that you're interested about, because the brain's just looking to be efficient. The brain just doesn't want to overwork, right? It wants to keep things as simple as possible so you can be as efficient as possible. It's really a great partner. But the things that we focus on, it assumes that we want to think about, and so it will create synapses to whatever that is, pathways to whatever that is. And that's the same way with negative thought. So if you want to combat negative thought, then we have to be very deliberate in how we react to them. So, we're not interested in that. Come up with something else. What else you got for me to work on? And then that's what we will develop pathways to think about. And so we can literally recreate how we think and our patterns of thought based on what we focus our thoughts on and what we are interested in, right? So here's the inverse side of that. When something comes in that's fascinating, also recognize that and think, yeah, that's great. That's what I want to think about, brain. I want to hang out and think about these things, right? Or if you see a problem, yes, I want to solve that problem. That's the thing I want to think about. And if we're very deliberate, very conscientious about this, then that's how we can change the way we think. But first and foremost, start on the negative thought. They can hang out and bounce around and cause some real problems if we don't deal with those. So notice them and acknowledge them, dismiss them. Notice, acknowledge, dismiss. And if you'll do that and practice that, eventually you get to the point where you just do it second nature, and you'll notice that those negative thoughts don't have a place to hang out because we've slowly gotten rid of those pathways. There's really just no place for them to be. So they come in and dismiss, and then we move on to something else. And the brain's really cool because it will give you something else to think about if you've got some time to think, if you're not totally engaged in something. And then focus on the stuff that's super positive. And that's how we'll move ourselves forward. So we're always thinking about being constructive. We're always thinking about something positive. We're always thinking about solving the next problem. We're always thinking about how we can do more. And our brain will start to hang out there. That's a much better place to hang out. So thank you so much for being an entrepreneur. Thank you so much for being brave enough to think about problems that you see and then committing to using your resources to solve those problems. That's how this place gets better. That's how lives get better. It's not always easy. There are bumps and bruises. But that's why we hang out together. So thank you for being a bruised entrepreneur. Until next time, thanks.